Every agency looks at leadership differently, whether it be the U.S. Army versus some of the law enforcement agencies nationwide. For usually the military groups, it's lead from the front. By example, you're out there as a leader, demonstrating what should be done. And too often, I think some of the law enforcement agencies have fell back on management from the chair. And I think the management is actually leadership. And in my opinion, and from what I've seen in my past, I don't feel that's leadership. Some of the better law enforcement agencies are better for a reason, because they have leaders who do go out front. They do lead by example. Their men see it. Their men are motivated to be the best people they can be, and it makes the whole agency better. If you just got promoted, remember where you came from. Remember, you don't have to distance yourself so much from the people that you just were promoted from. A lot of people think they got promoted, now I needed to distance myself from the other subordinates under me. Realize that you should set the example. I've got to be out there showing the men this is a way to do it. Ensuring that you have their sixes, as we say, that if they do make a mistake, you bring them in, counsel them on the mistake, but hopefully they can recover and still have their career. So I'm with my team, and we're going to harm's way. For instance, for me, when I was on the helicopter, we'd go do the fist bump. Mm-hmm. We'd do this, we'd look at each other, and that was kind of our last ritual. We were going into harm's way. A lot of guys have little rituals where they look at their kit and they kind of go over everything, they look at their rifle, and it's that one last mental thing that I know I've done this before, I've gone through everything, and I'm ready to go. So just some routine with your teammates. You look at each other, just a quiet pause. We ready? Everyone good? Check your gear. Okay, let's go. For us at Spartan Tactical, we've always looked at the principles and the techniques. The principles being the underlying law, theory, you could call it doctrine, of why you're going to do something, and then highlight the various techniques that will work within your agency's equipment, guys, and whatnot. So if you go back to the principles and always preach the principles and then highlight the different techniques, you'll never be wrong. You asked me about my childhood, my youth, why I went into the career path I did. My father was a police officer for 23 years. From when I was 5 years old on to 16, we'd go backpacking into Sierra Nevada mountains. So I developed a love of the wild spaces and a challenge. So from there, I chose, when I joined the Army, to go into the Airborne Rangers and do everything difficult and challenging I could do. And because of that, it led me on my career path even further, where now I want to go ahead and take some of those messages, some of those leadership things, and teach them back to the younger generation, whether it be firearms, whether it be going into harm's way, whatever it may be. Well, I saw the movie Apocalypse Now, and I went to the recruiter and wanted to be a Special Forces guy. At the time, they weren't taking people off the street to be Special Forces. So my recruiter said, hey, you can be an Airborne Ranger just as good or better. So I got a direct contract into 2nd Ranger Battalion. The year was 1980. I stayed in the 2nd Ranger Battalion for 3 years. From there, they were sending Rangers throughout the Army. I went into the Long Range Reconnaissance Patrol, which was a Ranger assignment. I was in charge of Long Range Reconnaissance Patrol as a team leader. From there, I joined International Long Range Patrol School, which was a NATO school, as an instructor. And at that point, I trained for Delta and then went into the Delta Force. So Ranger training, the intent is to make you as hungry and tired and difficult to lead as possible. And then you as a leader, a small unit leader within that group, have to lead those individuals. So for me, it would have been in the mountain phase, one of the more difficult times. We're going up through the mountains, and I step on a ground hive of hornets. The hornets swarm me. I'm running like a madman, and before I know it, both eyes are swollen shut, and I can't see, have to be medevaced. So that would be the worst. No, the best experience would probably be just finishing, The deprivation and hardship for when I went through was 58 days, and we looked like we came out of a POW camp. We lost that much weight. So I look back and think about the psychological and the physical lessons I learned of what your body can take, what your mind can take, and how much that strengthens you to go through those prior hardships. And then I think about the leadership examples I learned. And then the planning format they use is so very, very thorough. That planning format will stay with you the rest of your life. Probably two of the biggest ones would be attention to detail. Whenever you do a task, you're very attentive. You do it in exactly the same way, the correct way, and then discipline. When something has to be done a way, you do it that way. You have the discipline to carry the task out. Okay, a lot of people talk about when they leave the military, they really miss the camaraderie they had. And some of the better law enforcement agencies, they have that camaraderie. And I think that's developed over being together for a longer period of time, knowing each other. Maybe if you do sports together after hours, you're in a softball league. You think about communities today. We don't have as much community spirit as we used to years ago. And that's something that as community leaders, you need to think about how you can inject that back into your community, whether it be adult leagues, getting kids involved, getting older parents involved, working with younger kids, however, but to develop more of that camaraderie, not only as a unit or as a police force or military, but actually in the community. I think that needs to be addressed a little bit more. Well, I had made some calls to former Delta operators, one Craig Maxim, to vet some of the people I was potentially going overseas with, working for another federal agency. Craig Maxim and SAIC had just won the contract to conduct the training for the Federal Air Marshal Program in Artesia, New Mexico. Craig offered me a position to be a team lead, running a group of instructors, teaching the firearms tactics of the program. So this job to me seemed better to be at the front end of a large training cycle. And so I took that job versus going overseas with the other agency. Yeah, before 9/11 happened, the Air Marshals was a very small force. It was 33 agents, very highly skilled in marksmanship. But to me, they weren't as mission focused, fighting terrorism, because we had several years of just no incidents. 9/11 happened, the Air Marshal Agency grew exponentially from 33 to over 4,000. So to us, we were on a war footing, teaching warriors to go out and fight. What a capable threat, using an airliner like a ICBM or a cruise missile. Yeah, the training changed probably dramatically. It went into initially a 3-week program and then expanded to a 6-week program just to get the 3-week programs to get Air Marshals in the sky immediately. We took a lot of prior federal officers and then just gave them a transition course, got them flying. Shortly after that, when we had enough Air Marshals to actually address the threat that was present, we went into a 6-week evolution to give them plenty of firearms training, plenty of tactics training, and then combatives or some type of martial arts to be able to fight unarmed if they had to. It's great being here with Gauls, great people. I really believe in the company. Partner with Vertx, another great company that make good products. If you haven't checked out their gear, you need to check out their gear. Go into Vertx, www.vertx.com. And again, Spartan Tactical. We're out there to make the warfighter, to make the law enforcement officer, or just a civilian better at marksmanship, better at tactics and whatnot. So just let us know how any of us can help you. Thank you very much.